Welcome everyone, Simon here from the Whales of Wall Street. Hope you're doing well. Let's look at Illuvium today. That's ILV on the exchange. So guys, we've obviously had some fantastic moves with Illuvium recently. Before we go into the chart, let's just go through a couple of things around the game. So we have done an intro video to this. Go and check it out at the end of this one, or we'll leave a link right now on the screen so you can safeguard that and watch that later as well. But very much just to answer a couple of questions, really. We had a lot of comments asking the question, is it too late to get Illuvium? Well, there's a short and a long term answer for this, really. We'll go into that in a second once we've just covered a couple of these points. But I think it's quite an interesting question, and thank you to those that have asked it. And I've got a couple of sort of maybe like theories between both sides, both as a gamer and also as an investor as well. So we will look at that in a second. But before we do that, just a quick update on Illuvium. So RPG adventure game Illuvium, boosted by a $2 million gaming guild fundraise. So that's really good news for those guys. It's going to help towards in terms of the aspect of building the platform even more, the game infrastructure as well. So really cool information coming out through there. So yeah, this is again just another contribution to what's going to be probably an awesome game. For those that haven't sort of seen it in action, ignore the trailers. That's probably not what it's going to look like at all. But it's very much, in my opinion, reminding me of a game back in the day on PlayStation, like Holy Wars. How kind of like Battlesphere in there, a bit like maybe a Pokemon Arena, but you kind of like got a team of them in one hit. So right now, what is ILV being used for as a token? Well, it's certainly not for land yet, and this is quite staggering, really, in my opinion, because the price point, which goes in a second for Illuvium, is absolutely massive, and it's quite clear that, of course, there's an investment aspect of it, riding the chart. But I truly believe there's a lot of people in the background really holding and accumulating Illuvium for the purchasing power that they may have in the near future. So we've got this NFT aspect here. By no means, I believe, some of these have anything really to do with the actual game, in the sense that you can't get an NFT character, as it were. That's part of the game itself that you need to go and evolve and get hold of. But the land, there's no land for sale at all yet. The DEX platform's not coming, not launched yet either. So it's very much around staking right now. People obviously trying to accumulate even more Illuvium as much as they can before the game launches. Now, put this in perspective, I think the game, I believe, in Q4 this year is on the private beta. So very much whoever's been lucky enough to be able to try and play this game in the background and test it out, fair play to you guys. But I believe around Q1, don't know the exact date, but in Q1 2022 there's a public beta being launched, and I'm sure it's going to take a couple of months, maybe even another quarter or so, to get the game up and running. So there's plenty of time for this game to come out, really. And we'll have a look at the chart in a second, how that sort of plays out in that philosophy as well. But there's a couple of updates, and of course being launched on the Immutable X system. Immutable X itself has had a really good run recently as well, hitting around $8.65, so really good progress with them. There's a multitude of projects, including Illuvium, on there, but I thought I'd just throw that in there. There's just a bit more information to digest and have a look at. So if you are looking at Immutable X, just based on the Illuvium aspect, really, it's definitely worth looking into. We'll perhaps do an Immutable X video in the next couple of days anyway, because it really is a top project. But back to Illuvium, very much some really cool stuff going on. There's a really cool thing here as well. So join the Discord group. There's also something going on with giveaways around cosplay giveaways. So that's really cool. If you haven't been to like Comic-Con or like gaming events and you haven't seen people in cosplay, my goodness, you haven't seen anything yet. And some of the outfits, some of the the actual creatives, and absolute genius, some of them. I remember one actually scaring me to death, because it was like this big alien. This person, I can't remember her name, she's actually quite famous in the arena, and she was dressed as like one of these predator things out of Alien or something, and my goodness, how she makes them herself as well. I must find the name of her, but it was absolutely amazing, to the point I turned around and I was with big teeth at me, and she made this weird noise, and I literally ran away. around the corner, and then looked back and I was like, what are you doing? This is ridiculous. But it was so realistic. But anyway, so that's really cool. And I'm sure as Illuvium develops and the awareness gains and the popularity gains, you will probably see some Illuvium cosplay out there for sure over the years to come. I have no doubt in my mind about that at all. So guys, let's jump into the chart and we'll talk about the spectrum in our minds of, is it too late for Illuvium in terms of investing? Well, Illuvium itself, has had some really good movements quite recently. It has been out longer than this, but my justification around what I'm about to say is on a couple of opinions, really. Of course, we have had lower spectrums. It's had a massive rise. We've had things like the metaverse launch. We've had the actual game of Illuvium launching, very soon, certainly in that private aspect. And I'm just wondering if things have come out of the private beta that have been perhaps leaked as well, that's perhaps encouraged this tail up also. There's loads of few announcements recently also that we've covered in the previous Illuvium videos. Now, to the point of, is it too late to buy Illuvium? Well, I don't think it is. One from the aspect of still being able to purchase NFTs, but don't always look at the price as if you have to have a whole one of these. Any amounts you can accumulate throughout, you could build up to these kind of numbers as you go along, or you can hold elements of it. Many people out there don't hold Bitcoin, they hold Satoshis, right? So there's that aspect. But also I don't know, obviously, and no one really knows the price points that we're going to see for the land. Okay, so this is going to be quite interesting in my opinion, because I don't know what the land costs are going to be. So my opinion is that a lot of people have been accumulating more and more of Illuvium to anticipate these potential launches, not just in the marketplace in general, but for the actual land usage as well as the staking, of course, as we mentioned. But I think it's going to be very, very interesting to see how that develops. And of course, a lot of people have got full steam ahead on this before it's even begun. So it'll be very, very interesting to see how that plays out. I think the amount staked now is something like $1.3 billion worth. It's absolutely incredible. Phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. And in terms of distribution as well, it's not, I think it's just over a quarter of it still only distributed. So there's plenty of room in the tank for this to go up for sure as time goes by. But in my opinion, I can't imagine land being too expensive. We could compare it to some other games like Network, for example, where you've got varied different lands costs. So it's going to be quite interesting to see how that plays out. But in my opinion, I don't think it's too late. Obviously, it would have been fantastic to have got in at the lower regions, not necessarily where it is at 480 or this kind of mark, but obviously lower would have been even more fantastic. But you have had this tail up, you've had the reduction, and I do think there's still a bit more to come in terms of the slight bearish movements. I don't think we'll see major developments in the price further on until we start getting more announcements around the game, particularly the launch mechanisms and how the development is going through the beta. Because obviously a beta, or beta, or whatever you want to say it, is very much fundamental in terms of the development of a game, ironing out issues, seeing how it's tested against audience, how is it reacted. And of course, if that goes wrong or delayed, that's going to change bits in the price because people just get fed up with waiting. But I do think there's a big stronghold here for sure in terms of volume that's kicking in all the time, because it seems like whenever we have some relatively interesting retracements, we have a lot of stabilization and then tail ups again as well. So we saw that up here, tail up, profit taking. We had along here as well, don't forget, we had the Bitcoin leveraging failures as well, and it's kind of reacted quite well. So people have got maybe a bit scared because they probably actually have invested quite a lot in terms of these price points, that they wanted to sell off and make what they could, because this is a big rise. We tailed it up here, highlighted 198% down from this low point up to this high point. So it's a big risk if you are just riding the storm, as it were. So there's loads of different variables as to who's involved in this particular token. You've got the investors, you've got the gamers themselves, and you've got people that are staking to try and accumulate more, ready in time for these land sales and things like this coming up in the near future. So there's loads going on, and it's one of those projects. I know we should always say, like, do your own research for everything anyway, and we do, but it's one of those particular projects, in my opinion, that you really have to keep an eye on almost 24/7 to understand the reactions, what's going on, and especially with game development, what's something that hasn't even launched yet. And we've got these kind of crazy prices. I do think there was a metaverse aspect to this as well. People jumping into gaming, not really understanding what's going on. They just thought, right, what are the gaming ones going on here? Yeah, brilliant, I'll buy those, and not actually understand that the game's not coming out till next year. That's why I'm anticipating we might have a bit more of a bearish mode coming down. Not to say that's a terrible project, but you've got to think in the eyes of the recipient, who's actually been buying into this. I don't believe for 1 second there's 100% gamers behind this. I think there's a lot of investors out there that haven't done their due diligence, in my opinion, and will be running scared when you see these kind of drops. That's why they're significant, because there's too many people with weak hands and not anticipating what's going on. Of course, you have the general investors that know what they're doing, of course, and they're riding that wave of the market. Absolutely fantastic. But I do believe many out there don't realize perhaps the roadmaps, and that's why we've got channels out there, hopefully like ourselves, that keep guys informed. Especially with roadmap activity, it's very important to know when you're investing, not just doing research in the project, but research in its future, what's coming up, and the positions of timing. Timing is very important as well. There's no point jumping into something when it's about to happen, but gradually build beforehand. That's why I'm saying it's not too late, because you've got time essentially. Not, like I said, not necessarily from a full amount's worth, because I do think we'll have some other opportunities and dips as well. But from the principle in my mind that you could accumulate as you go along to build to that infrastructure, and hopefully as we get more information about land sales, then you're probably going to see some real interesting fluctuation, because you could be that the land isn't as expensive as people thought, or you could at least obtain some small amounts to begin with. But if there's big numbers, you're going to see this price jump up phenomenally more, because people are like, oh wow, I thought I had enough, but I don't. So the building of the game is fantastic. The momentum is building. The game is going to be really cool, in my opinion, just from games that I played, relatively similar over the many years now. But with this whole crypto aspect and play to earn, all these mechanisms within crypto and blockchain, it's going to be so different, in my opinion, to the other world games that we know today. It's another level, really. So guys, let's keep an eye on this. We'll monitor the situation, and of course, as the development occurs over the rest of the next couple of months, as the private beta comes to an end, we will keep you informed. But we'll always do an Illuvium update at least once a week now, and anything else immediate that comes out to play, we will keep you informed. Until the next one, guys, we'll see you soon, and thank you for watching, and do make sure that you subscribe if you have not done so already. We'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.